Welcome to the Economy Magazine at I-24 News, where we provide a daily view on the world markets and global economy. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Coming up today, China's growth falls to its lowest rate in 25 years. And Ernst Young draws world techies to Tel Aviv. Let's start now with the financial headlines. Well, Asian shares ended mixed on Monday on news that China's economic growth has slowed to 6.9%. Japan's Nikkei closed down 0.88%, China's Hang Seng up 0.04%, and the Shanghai declined 0.11%. Well, European stocks took the report positively, mostly opening flat on China's lackluster GDP read and then advanced by midday. London's FTSE down 0.20%, Germany's DAX up 0.69%, and France's CAC also higher, 0.13%. In the U.S., meanwhile, markets indicating a slightly lower open on Monday, but still in the green. Well, China recorded its weakest quarterly economic growth since 2009 on Monday. Since the summer, when China's stock market plunged, leaders in Beijing have been working hard to reassure global investors, employing a variety of stimulus measures. The world's number 2 economy grew 6.9% in July through September quarter from a year ago, slightly better than estimates, but still down from 7% in the second quarter. Other economic readings for the month of September, such as factory output, as well as retail spending, also signaled weakness in the Chinese economy, and we'll have more on this just later in the program. Poland signed a landmark multi-million-euro deal on Thursday to build the first EU gas pipeline to isolated Baltic countries. A clear effort now to lessen the Baltic nations' reliance on Russia, the pipeline will stretch more than 500 kilometers from Poland to Lithuania. And it is the first of its kind between these two nations. The European Union is providing financing of some 300 million euros. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker praised the move.
You have witnessed history being made. This is the first energy infrastructure project that will directly connect the Baltic states with the rest of the European market.
Meanwhile, in Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel offered Turkey support as it continues to push to join the European Union. At a joint news conference in Istanbul, Merkel said Germany could accelerate the path for Turks to visa-free travel to the EU, breathing new life now to Ankara's stalled EU membership talks. In return, Merkel hopes that Ankara will agree to absorb more migrants which are sent back from the EU. She insisted on Europe's duty to help Turkey as it serves as a key gateway between the Mideast and Europe.
We can see that there is a migration flow. This flow might increase and come to the European Union from Turkey. And we believe that we should share Turkey's burden and support Turkey and help them tackle this problem.
Immigration was the central topic for Swiss voters. The anti-immigration Swiss People's Party, winning the biggest share in national parliamentary elections on Sunday, the SVP won 29.5% of the vote, up from 26.6% in the 2011 vote, and far exceeding expectations. The move now adds pressure on Switzerland to introduce quotas on people moving from the European Union.
What I can say is that the Swiss people want to put migration at the center of this election, and they don't agree with other parties, with the government, and with the parliament. We know how to handle this refugee crisis, while others act like there isn't even a problem.
In corporate news, Deutsche Bank announced a sweeping restructuring plan on Sunday, dividing its investment bank into two parts and also axing several key executives. In a statement, the German bank said it plans to combine its corporate finance and global transaction banking units and make its private and business clients division an independent business. As a result, its asset management operation will operate as a standalone division focused solely on institutional clients and funds. China, the world's number 2 economy, now remains a worry for investors across the globe. And yet another blow now, Beijing delivered yet another sign that its economy is contracting. The news is likely to be felt worldwide.
It's official. Chinese growth has fallen below the 7% mark for the first time since 2009. According to data released by the National Statistics Office, between July and September, growth reached just 6.9%. The figure nevertheless slightly beat expectations, confirming the slowdown of the world's number 2 economy.
China's gross domestic product grew 6.9% in the third quarter, dipping below 7%, but only dropped 0.1%. We should say it's still around 7%. As for the reason why the growth slightly slowed in the third quarter, I think the main reason is that the international and domestic economic and financial situation showed new trends and new issues in the third quarter.
Growth was surging at 7.3% in 2014, but should average to around 7% in 2015, a year-long low not reached in 25 years. Worse, many experts believe that the Chinese government inflates its economic figures, a claim which is denied by Beijing. But for the first time, China's president admitted he was concerned about the economy. It happened Saturday in an interview with Reuters.
As an economy closely linked to international markets, China cannot stay immune to the lackluster performance of the global economy. We do have concerns about the Chinese economy, and we are working hard to address them. We also worry about the sluggish world economy, which affects all countries, especially developing ones.
The government has taken a number of steps to revive its economy, including decreasing interest rates to stimulate lending, as well as quantitative easing, the effectiveness of which remains unproven. Some experts anticipate a fall in growth of an additional 0.5 percentage point for the fourth quarter of 2015.
And moving closer to home, recently we had a member of the Ford Motor team in studio to chat about its interest in Israeli technology. Let's watch. Well, thank you for being with us. Why is Ford in Israel?
Well, Israel is a really unique market. It's got from a development perspective, it's got a lot of startups and it's got a lot of innovation. And what's interesting about this particular country is the fact that all this innovation is not necessarily being developed for the domestic market. Of course, there are some benefits here too. But the Israeli developer community are really trying to go for global domination. And so some of the innovation and some of the ideas that we're seeing here are actually for a global audience. Could be for the US, could be for Europe. So we think being here makes a lot of sense.
All right, well, tell us about the AppLink Challenge specifically.
So the AppLink Challenge was really quite a unique thing for us to do in Israel. It took quite some time to plan. I was really trying to make sure that we can come here and do something really meaningful. So the concept here was somewhat different. We've held challenges around the world, Brazil, China, etc. The event that we did here was slightly different in the fact that we were kind of approaching two different audiences. One was the kind of entrepreneurs. I'm not a developer, I have ideas, right? The other was a more traditional kind of person that we go for, which is I'm a developer, I'm a techie, I'm going to code something. So we held two parallel tracks. We wanted to make sure that we can get as many ideas as possible and give people an opportunity to actually fast-track their idea and make it what we call drivable.
Right. So this was a hackathon, essentially, to find some new ideas, and you gave a prize to one Israeli startup. Why did you choose them? Who were they?
Well, we chose this company because we thought, well, we chose a couple of different ideas. This Wake Me Up, or this app in particular, was really interesting because, as you know, there's some pain points when you're driving, right? I'm on a long journey. I'm concerned that I'm going to fall asleep. I need kind of an assistant, right? You may be driving with people, they may be asleep. So what we looked for in particular, and some of the ideas that we saw, were things that kind of helped drivers, that actually, kind of made the whole journey worth it, right? And so the other idea was actually, was if you're in the car and there's a rocket warning coming into Israel, because you're driving in the car, there may not be sirens that you can hear. This will actually inform you that you should pull off and you should find safety.
Oh, wow.
So
you chose something that was beneficial to the local market, not just globally. Interesting.
We did.
Because it was a good idea.
Because it was a good idea, not just because it was for the local domestic audience. The other idea that we identified was carpools. Another developer from here, they identified the fact that, hey, people are carpooling, specifically children, and hey, what happens if I'm on the way and the next kid I'm going to be picked up is not going to show up, right? You get a notification in the car, I'm not coming, whatever. So basically AppLink allows us to bring in apps very quickly into the vehicle.
And tell us, what are the benefits of doing a hackathon to drive innovation?
Well, we think for a hackathon, or a challenge as we're calling it, hackathon is one of those words that everyone throws around, but it works. We think that a hackathon challenge is a great way for both Ford, our engineers, to engage with the developer community so that it's kind of keeping everyone on their toes. But it's also interesting for us to understand what's happening with some trends. So, some of these events, I kind of see some similar stuff, right? lots of parking applications and lots of other types of stuff, fuel economy, etc. But there are some really interesting ideas that make us as a company think a little differently about what we should be doing in our vehicles, what type of experiences consumers want.
Right, it's a good way to tap into other talent, and especially all over the world. Also tell us, what is the direction that Ford is going in over the next few years?
I wish I had my crystal ball today, but I left it at home. No, but seriously, we're really changing as a company because we have to, right? So for us, one of the kind of key phrases that we use internally is mobility. And so we're not just kind of making vehicles now, we're actually making experiences, and we're thinking about, hey, you live in a city, you may not want to own a car. What's the next step, right? And it's a very exciting thing because, thinking about mobility and thinking about urban drivers and what's changing over the next century, we have to be ready for that. And so we're really looking around the world, and we have a number of different experiments that we have going on around the world, whether it be parking or car sharing or experiments in Africa about looking at how people utilize vehicles and how we can actually get different experiences out there. We're really focused on understanding where things are going and delivering those experiences to traditional customers as well as those urbanites who may not want to own a car or may want to do something completely different.
So expanding your market and rethinking your products. Thank you so much for being with us. Very much appreciate it, Scott Lyons.
Pleasure.
Another international tech conference taking place in central Tel Aviv late last week, further cementing Israel as a serious hub for tech and innovation. Daniel Roth reports.
Ernst Young hosted its annual Journey Conference in the Tel Aviv Hilton for the 19th year in a row late last week. 2,000 people came together for a day of analysis, startup pitches, and vision-making on the subjects of high tech and global investment flows.
At about 97, we saw there is enough critical mass. And being the largest accounting firm in Israel and the biggest service provider in the financial industry, we thought that we should bring something back to the industry.
Much of the focus from the Ernst Young team was on the shift from the last few decades of creating connection and collaboration possibilities through technology and the wave of digitization happening now and expected to continue for years to come. This means innovation is key to success, something many say comes naturally in this part of the world.
Technology clearly is an area that we're seeing more and more interest in, and the education, the innovation here around technology in Israel really has been a leader around the world.
While many are taking leaps and bounds forward in tech, design, and networking, the lack of diversity in this sector was on the docket for discussion. Lisa Lampert of Intel took the stage to talk about her project to build a support network for women executives and the benefits of diversifying at the top levels while noting very real inequities on gender and race lines in the tech world. Indeed, Lampert explained that only 15% of VC-funded companies have a woman on their executive teams, while less than 1% of Silicon Valley founders are African American or Latino, something she sees as systemic and rooted in a lack of access.
And it's not because they don't have great ideas. It's because there is a funding gap. They're not getting access to capital in the way that others are getting access to capital. Just adding 1 or 2 more women or ethnic minorities to your executive teams makes an enormous difference.
Meanwhile, Lou Kerner, one of the keynote speakers, spoke about the pendulum swing between fear and greed in the market and the question of whether a tech bubble is on the horizon. Despite the overarching realities, Kerner sees a lot of potential on the Israeli scene.
As a VC, I have a fund. I've made 35 investments over the last 3 years from my fund, including 2 in Israel. And in June, I started a fund called the Israel Syndicate on AngelList, 100% focus on investing in companies founded by Israelis wherever they live.
Here at Journey 2015, the excitement is palpable as big players spend the day together. And so far, according to attendees, and despite instability in the region, Israel's place as a global tech hub remains real. This is Daniel Roth in Tel Aviv for I-24 News.
And on set, we have Daniel Roth. So what were the highlights?
Well, Israel is a host of many conferences like this. This is something you see at least monthly. Startup conferences, tech conferences. There's a lot of money and technology flowing through this country. So a lot of it you've seen before. It's interesting always to learn about the new trends. But actually the most interesting thing here, I think, was what Lisa Lampert was talking about in her keynote address about diversity, about gender diversity and racial diversity in the tech world, and the lack of specifically, and what she's doing to try to stop that. She works for Intel, and she's setting up networks for women executives. She's sort of preaching the word about how much diversity can help business. It's not only good socially and for humankind, but it's also good for the bottom line of for-profit companies. And that was one of the keynotes at this thing, and it was a big, big deal.
All right. Well, perhaps it's her own vision of lean in, but in the tech world.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us and filing that report. Very much appreciate it here as always. That wraps up our show today. Stay tuned every day here for all your business coverage. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Thank you again very much for watching. And check out our website. It's i24news.tv.